Hey you guys, so in case you're new to my channel, my name is Manny. I talk about all things that's positive and how to be a better person by talking about what is in my eye. Oh, talk about intro. Um, talk about all things that are positive and how to be better through my own trial and error and advice from other people. So right now, I got my first guest, Al Lake, uh, greatest dude ever, my math teacher, retired lieutenant colonel from the Rangers in the Army. So a lot of things I've learned is from this guy, and yeah, so we're in a business of learning from others and service for self. So hope you enjoy it. uh, let's try one more time. Can you hear me now? No, you can't hear me? You can hear me? And you're not muted on your end? Hey, I hear you.
All right, you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, figured out how to turn the silly thing on. Okay, let me put these back away and put my other headset on.
Good seeing you, Al.
It is good to see you.
Just to let you know, I'm recording this session.
Okay, no problem.
Man, it's
Oh,
good.
yeah.
It's good seeing you. I gotta say, it's pretty awesome stuff. The lessons that you taught me and the things that you said all lines up to being true. I really find it interesting that just by doing good and always like thinking positive, I mean, you're a living example.
It much of that is the
What is
the
it?
fights I've had with myself early on. This is 50 plus years ago. I was very negative. I remember before we were married, we
I
were
can't see
driving.
that.
Sue and I were driving down. Sue and I were driving down through a subdivision in my hometown, and I was pointing out something bad, poor about every single house in the road. We got down to the end of the road, and she stopped me and said,
Hi, Sue.
"Hey." And
He's too noisy. I can't hear my music.
yeah.
You guys don't even age, I swear. Like
I'll
Brad
tell you.
Pitt.
And she said, "Now wait a second. Let's go back up the road and you tell me one positive thing about every house that we've just gone by." And it was one of those, you can look at life in general, but specific things that happen to you in two different ways, because the most difficult lessons for me were the ones that were the most painful. That's where I learned the most. Yeah. It's one of those, many times in my life, I've had opportunities. Good Lord has said, "Here, why don't you try doing this?" And I've ignored him.
Yeah.
And Sue will mention this. He'll open a door for me, and I won't go through it, and then he'll kick me through a window or something. And it's one of those. Yeah, you need to go here. I was out on a Patriot Guard ride.
That's so
Day
awesome.
before yesterday. Oh, it was for guy that had been special forces in Vietnam. He had a
Ooh.
Silver Star. Yeah,
Ooh.
and obviously he'd survived because he just died.
Yeah.
About 2 weeks ago. And so I show up and I got my Airborne Ranger hat on and I got my leathers on and shows my. But yeah, and the widow comes walking into the church, and she just happens to walk through the door that I'm standing next to, and she's got all these family around her, and I looked over at her, and she looked at me, and she said, "Do I know you?" And I said, "No, ma'am, but we can change that." And so I'd leaned my flag up against the church, and I walked over to her. And we started talking, and she came over and hugged me.
Yeah.
She said, "You remind me of my husband." One of those, okay, I'll take that as just the hugest compliment in the world because she
Yeah.
loved her husband. But it was one of those, I was in the right place, the right time to do God's work. We moved here to Paducah 5.5 years ago. In August, 3 days before school started, I got asked to teach middle school math over at Community Christian Academy, and I spent a year doing it. But it was for me, because midway through that year, in December, I get diagnosed with cancer, and it knocked me down really hard. It surprised me, and I realized I get to the end of the school year, and I actually had planned on coming back for the second year, do 2 years rather than just one. And I realized I got to go through cancer treatment, and it's not going to finish until August. And one of the things I talked to my doctor, and I said, I don't want to do cancer treatment before school gets out. Can we delay it? And he goes, yeah, sure. And so I'm literally doing cancer treatment in August when the school's starting up again. So I told the principal I can't come back. But I'm sitting there getting the cancer treatment, and I just have this feeling of warmth come over me. And I realized my students at CCA are praying for me right now. And it's the first time I'd actually experienced that, was that you can actually feel someone's prayers for you. And so a couple, 3 weeks later, I was out at the school for something. They had a play going on or something, and I walked in, and I asked one of the students. I said, on this day, were you students praying for me? And she got out her calendar, and she goes back and she goes, yeah. It was the first time that we had gotten back together, and we had a chapel service. It was a Wednesday. We had a chapel service, and one of the students stood up and said, let's pray for Mr. Lake. And it was just really. And it was just, okay, I felt your prayer. And it was remarkably wonderful for me. And it's really kind of funny, because
you felt it?
I'll go over to the school even now. My 8th graders are now seniors.
Yeah.
They're getting set to this end of this school year. They're going to graduate, and I'm gonna show up for the graduation, because I knew all those kids. It's a real privilege to be able to speak into the life of someone, whether you're teaching or an officer or whatever. When you're in a supervisory position, you can speak into someone's life. It means a lot, because you're actually modeling behavior. It's not really the words that are coming out of your mouth that are going to impact them the most. It's your actions. And it is one of those where you can make a difference. I just got a FedEx delivery, but I had ordered some flagpoles. We got some friends that just moved back to Idaho, and they have an HOA, and so they can't put when they were in Mobile, Alabama, I put up a flagpole in their front yard. Well, they're in an HOA, and they can't put a flagpole in their front yard. So I'm going to go, next time we're out there, I'm going to hang a flagpole on the side of their house. I'm Johnny Appleseed when it comes to flagpoles. Yeah. But it's one of those where you can influence people in a number of different ways. You can do it through negative, where you have retribution toward them. You can do it educationally, where you try to teach them something. Right. You can do it in a superior position, where you give them an order. You can, and the fourth is that you can actually talk to them. Your approach is the best approach. Now, that means that you've actually thought through this. You're not doing this off the cuff, freelance kind of thing. You've actually thought through it, and you know what you're talking about. And so when you go into those type of situations, be prepared. One of the things that surprises me the most, it's like the other day on the Patriot Guard ride, when I was talking to the widow of the veteran. There are these words that come out of my mouth, and I've stopped being surprised, because God is using me in that moment. They're not my words, they're his. I don't take credit for those words. It's one of those, holy cow, that was good. There have been instances like at Sprague. I remember a couple, 3 Monday mornings. Those were some of the most difficult times for my students.
Yeah.
Students would show up in the school and they would have had just an awful, atrocious, lousy weekend. And I remember one in particular. One of my female students came in and she's crying. And her dad had made her sit in the car in the driveway all weekend long. Hadn't let her bathe or any of that. And and my choice at that point is that the immediate choice is I don't let her walk up to me and hug me, which I did hug her. Second choice that I had was, do I call children's services? This sounds like child abuse. And so I'm talking to her. I'm saying, what precipitated and all this other stuff going on? And it's just, okay, I think I understand what happened here. And so what I ended up doing was, next break I went in and I got home phone number and I called home and the father was at home. And I said, let me talk to you about last weekend. And he said, oh, you've been talking to my daughter. I said, yeah, I have. And he said, he started saying nasty things about her. And I said, stop. This isn't about her. It's about you. And he said, why is that? I said, because what you did was inappropriate. I didn't call it abuse at that point, but I did. And so
Why didn't you? Why didn't you?
Because I didn't want to alienate him. I figured he'd just hang up on me. And I wanted him to hear what I had to say. Yeah. Because you can, even if you're in a superior position, you can approach things in a couple different ways. You can go in and just pound on that soldier or airman, and they got to take it. And it's one of those, okay, didn't like that. Or you can go in and you can talk to them. And I found that the latter works better than the former. Now, there have been times when I've gone in and I've had to metaphorically pick up a 2x4 and pound somebody up the side of the head because they weren't listening. And it was just, okay, we're gonna stop dancing around on this. You're gonna listen to me now. Yeah. Shut up. And it's just okay. But by and large, good 80% of the time, if I went into one of my people and said, "Here's the problem. What's the solution?" and asked them, they would come up with. Sometimes they'd blow smoke at me. I did a platoon live fire, and I got 2 other tanks added to my group, and I had 6 tanks. And so they add 2 more, and so I got 8 tanks. And first time that we had ever had live fire, and this is at Grafenwehr in Germany. And the platoon leader that I got in the mix with me decided that he wasn't going to do what I told him to do. He had a round in the tube, and he pulls up right behind me. That's a safety violation. And he's become belligerent. And so I just told my driver, back up until you hit his tank. I crawled off of my tank, crawled onto his tank, and I literally hit him up the side of the head. He's got a CVC helmet on and all of that. And I slapped him up the side of the head, and I go, listen to me. And he's saying, I'm going to climb down off this track and beat you up. And it's just, come on, right here, right now. Yeah. Because this is my range. You either do what I say or you get the heck off my range. And he said, he didn't want to do that. And I said, okay, get off the range. That's an order. Make sure, and I looked down inside the cupola, and I told his loader said, be sure you take the round out of the tube before you leave the range, because
Yeah.
range safety officer is going to ask you when you pull off the range if you have a round in the tube, and they will dox you. I mean, they will just pound on you.
Yeah.
And the loader's going, yes, sir. And so I step back off, and he turns around. And he's got his head up his butt so far that he can't see anything. And they go off, and the loader does get the round out of the tube. And later on, my battalion commander says, why did you, ship the other lieutenant off the range? And I explained it to him, and he said, well, I saw you hit him, and I was wondering what was going on, because I didn't have my CVC helmet on, and happily he didn't have his keyed up so that we weren't transmitting to the whole battalion.
Yeah.
And the battalion commander asked me, he said, should I relieve him? And I said, that's up to you, sir. And he said, no. Should I relieve him? And I said, no, sir. You can go ask him if he learned a lesson. And if he hasn't learned a lesson, then yeah. And he didn't relieve him that day, but within a month he had relieved him, because that lieutenant had made up his mind he was going to do it his way rather than his company commander's way. And his company commander that had gone to the battalion commander and said, I don't want this lieutenant anymore. And he's gone. And it's one of those, okay, career over, because you just got relieved of a platoon. And there's, as a second lieutenant, you can't get any lower than that. They're not going to make you a squad leader. And it was one of those, okay. And I bumped into him. They put him in the recreation center. And I bumped into him once there. And he said, are you happy? And I said, yeah, I'm generally happy. And he said, no, about me being here. And I said, I could care less about you being here. It just, your life doesn't impact me anymore. I'm happy to say, because you're a butthead, and it's just, okay, and he was trying to play the victim, and it was just, I don't care, and that's one of the things that I've seen, golly, in the last 4 years at least, but more like 10 years, people playing the victim. It's just, no. That a lot of things happen to us in life, that we have no control over. Okay. And my response to it is suck it up. Let's move on. Take what you got, move on, because Ranger School majorly sucked. I mean, you look at in each, there were three-week phases. City phase at Fort Benning, mountain phase at Dahlonega, Georgia, and Florida phase at Eglin Air Force Base. And each of them were focused on different things. And you look at, what's the purpose of this phase? Well, the overriding purpose of all three phases was just to tire you. I mean, because we were getting 2-3 hours of sleep in any 24, and we were running, walking, moving, awake the other, 20-21 hours a day. I was at Fort Benning this spring, and they were doing a ruck march. And one of the soldiers came up to me, and he was complaining about he had just completed a 5-mile ruck march. And my response was, suck it up, cupcake. And part of it was to make fun of him, but the other part of it was 5 miles? No, that's not even the beginning of a good day's work. Yeah. And your ruck weighs 15 pounds. My ruck weighed 55 pounds. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was carrying just way too much stuff, but it's a matter of ankle. Well, and yeah, much of it has to do with mindset.
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
if you allow adversity to overtake you, it's like when you broke your neck,
You were
you
there.
know.
I remember talking to you. You gave me some
Yeah,
of the best
and
advice.
it was one of those, you can't let this get you down,
You said that.
because yeah, you got to get back up. You got to, you got to, you got to take care of yourself. You don't want to re-injure or whatever, but at the same time, you don't want to stop living. It's um,
That's a very interesting concept, like you with the cancer scare.
yeah, yeah. It's one of the things that I really enjoy doing now. We go out to the grocery store, we go to the airport or wherever. I just walk around and talk to people, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, you do.
You know,
Every time we see
it,
you, you meet
I
somebody
know,
new.
and it's just, you know, and Sue gets real amused at me because she'll just stand back and watch me talking to people. But my I have I have a couple major missions in life right now,
Yeah.
and one of them is to tell parents that they're doing a good job with their children, and I like to do a specific performance type of statement, like we were at the funeral the other day. I'm watching a father bend down and pick up a child, about a 3-year-old, and carry that child with him. And I walked by the father and I said, you're doing a good job, Dad, taking care of that little boy of yours. And it's just noticing, and he just, and his response was, well, it's my job. And that's a correct
Yeah.
statement, but it's also a matter of you're doing a good job, Dad, because you're taking care of that boy of yours. And it's just, yeah, it, that's one of my missions. The other mission is to take care of veterans.
You love
Well,
veterans. You love anybody that. That's one thing I've noticed about you.
yeah.
You always position everything in a very interesting way.
Well, what did you learn from bumping up against those NCOs?
It doesn't do any good. It doesn't go. It doesn't do any good bumping against the grain or
Yep,
challenging
yep,
them.
exactly. Yep, that's it exactly. And much of it, some of it is a power position type of thing, and that's on them. Um, one of the lessons that I learned is that I don't have to take ownership of somebody else's actions. If they want to be rude or whatever, that's on them. I
That's a
don't
good
I
point.
don't have to own that. Last time we were in Dallas, Texas, we're out walking around with some friends of ours, and woman with purple hair comes up to me and she's shouting about some garbage. And she says something to me and I said, no. And she said, no, you didn't understand what I said. And I said, yeah, I understood. I'm just saying, no, I'm not going to engage with you. Well, why not? Don't you believe in this, this, and this? And my response was, it doesn't matter what I believe because you've already made up your mind
That's a
and
good
you've
point.
lost your mind. And I turned and walked away from him. And it one of the things that upsets me is, and this I learned a long time ago. When I was in college, I actually had my professor of military science, my PMS, told me one day to stop wearing my uniform walking across campus.
Fine.
1973. And he's a colonel. I'm a cadet.
Yeah.
And I said, no, sir, I won't do that. That's an illegal order. You can't order me to not wear my uniform.
You said that?
Oh yeah, it was one of those. I think I just stepped into and he was worried that because I was coming all the way across campus. This is the end of Vietnam, and there are a lot of folks on campus that are making a lot of noise about baby killers and all the other stuff that was being said about people who had served in Vietnam. And I was a big target. I mean, yeah. And I said, no, sir, I'm going to continue wearing my uniform. And Sergeant Major was standing there next to me. And we walked out of the colonel's office, and Sergeant Major grabbed my arm and he said, I can't believe you said that to the colonel. I said, well, Sergeant Major, I'm not gonna stop wearing my uniform. Not for anybody.
Wow.
If the colonel decides he wants to put me out of the program, so be it. And Sergeant Major laughed and he said, the colonel's not going to put you out of the program. You're one of the best cadets he's got. I said, okay. Now, and then the Sergeant Major said, what the colonel wants is for you not to get into trouble, get into a confrontation with these whack jobs that are out here on campus. And it was, yeah. But the change that it made in me is that when someone comes up and confronts me like that now, I'm not going to take a step back.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, if you push me, you're not going to like the response because it's not going to be polite. One of the things that just last weekend, there was some people in Cincinnati, Ohio, who were beaten up really badly by this crowd, and there are all these idiots that are standing back with their cameras filming it rather than calling 911 or stepping in and saying stop this. One of the people was a young woman who's mother of 3 children, and I don't know where the father is. I guess it doesn't matter, but it's one of those. That bothers me at a core level, in that part of my mission in life is to protect those around me now. And it includes everybody. If you're within 40 feet of me, you are under Al's umbrella, and I'm going to protect you. Seriously. When I walk into church on Sunday mornings, my thinking is, I'm a planner, scenarios all the time. And I go, okay, somebody comes through that door there, with a long gun, that's my, worst case scenario. Because to take a handgun and go up against a long gun, you're likely going to lose. But okay, that's how the dice is rolled. I'll take that and I'll go with it. But okay, but it's one of those. I'm going to protect the people that are here because I love them. And that's
unconditionally.
Yeah, unconditionally. Yeah. And it was like when I was teaching at CCA, the first day I was there, I went to the principal and asked her if I could conceal carry in the building. And she couldn't approve it. I went before the school board on Wednesday night, and they approved. I mean, I'm talking to the parents of children, that are the school board for that school. And I said, I can see some security problems with the building there, and it worries me. I want to carry. And one of the parents asked me, literally puts a scenario together that's the Nashville shooter. Somebody with a long gun comes through the front door and starts killing children, and it's just, and she says, what are you going to do? And my response was, I'll do what's necessary. You're trying to harm my children, because I take responsibility for all of those children that are in that building. And that's okay. And that's a different position for me than 10 years ago.
Now I know the way you think though. You'd shoot him in the leg. He messes with your kids though. He messes with you.
Yeah. It just, yeah.
What was?
Because.
Go ahead.
Stuff like that, gun-free zones, really bother me, because the people that are coming in that are hurting people, they could care less about that rule or law or whatever, and it's up to us as citizens to protect those around us. Those of us that are aware and are trained and are ready
remember I was wanting to do SEER, and you're one of the
Yeah.
people talking to me and tell me what to do, but then you also at the same time said, "Why don't you just come shoot with me? Like,
Yeah.
why do you have to go through that and leave Cindy and the kids and
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
that? You're not like the typical person that's just as you think the typical people would be encouraging other people to do it, but instead it's the opposite. You're like, what was your reason why you did that?
Because there was about a 50% chance that you were going to be hurt badly.
I remember you saying that.
There was less than a 50% chance that you were going to graduate successfully. Ranger School historically has a 55-56% failure rate. Some classes are far worse than that. Most classes aren't better than that. So yeah. And if you got one chance in two of completing a course that's that tough, that's from a career move alone, that's not a good choice. I needed it personally because I needed to get over being the 90-pound weakling that I was in high school. I graduated from high school 6 foot and 90 pounds, about that wide, kind of thing. And it's just okay. But the other part of it was just self-confidence. And my calculus on it was you didn't need to build up your self-confidence in that way. That's why I said, come out and shoot with me at the range. Because if you want to improve your skills, there are ways to improve your skills. You want to get better at map reading. Okay, here's how you do that. You want to get better at shooting. Here's how you do that. You want to get better at doing an operations order or project management, or pick a skill. And okay, we can do the training on it. But to take 9 weeks out of your life and go get beat up really badly and have a chance of getting hurt real badly, okay, yeah. If you wanted to go to a school, I would recommend Airborne School or Air Assault School. Those two schools are both open to the Air Force and are excellent schools, and they're confidence building, and the chance of you getting hurt are really small. Less than 1%. Okay, that's a much better one than having about a 50% chance of getting hurt. Just on the hand-to-hand pit,
Yeah.
we had at least a couple guys out of my company that left on stretchers every single time we went into the hand-to-hand pit. The instructors, they weren't toning it down. They were actually hyping it up. And it's just, okay. I don't understand that, because what you want to do is you want to have the best training that you can provide, but you don't want to allow soldier A to hurt soldier B. And I mean, hurt them in a bad way. And that's okay.
You have a lot of emotion with that. You probably had a lot of troops that had spouses or had.
Oh yeah.
You had to give a lot of orders out.
Well, and when I was platoon leader in Germany, I remember one Friday evening I got a phone call from one of my troops who lived a couple blocks from where we were, and his wife was about to give birth, and the local hospital couldn't handle her, and he didn't have a way to get her into Frankfurt, and so he called me. And we had taken our car in to have it worked and worked on, and the company gave us this big boxy Mercedes, and because the car we had was a little Fiat, and so we went over and picked up them and their whole family. They had 3 kids already, and so. Yeah, we pick up a family of 5, and we're going down the autobahn. He's telling me when contractions are, and it's just okay. but it's, there again, the good Lord provided, because we had the right vehicle at the right time, kind of thing. But the other part of it is that you want to take care of the folks around you. One of the lessons for me from one of my NCOs was one day when he took care of me, because we were out in the field and something went sideways in a really major way, and he just stepped in and said, "Okay, we're going to stop right here, right now. We're out on a field training exercise."
Yeah.
And things had just, we had a track up on a hill, a tank up on a hill, and it threw both tracks off. And it's one of those, this is not supposed to happen. And the driver was just being an idiot, and so I pulled him out of the driver position, but we got to fix this thing on the side of this hill, and it was dangerous. And this NCO steps in and goes, "Okay, I'll handle this. You need to pick up platoon and move from here to there. We'll catch up." And he just took over. And it was just one of those, okay, and he allowed me to do my job, and he took over that track. And he didn't need to, but the tank commander on that track was a very young E5, inexperienced, and so he stepped in, and he's got the young E5 with him, and they're just doing this training thing, and an hour and a half later they catch up, and he steps off that track and steps onto his track, and we're back into the game again. But it was one of those, he allowed me to do my job as a young officer. One of the biggest mistakes that they make is that they think that everything needs to revolve around them. They need to be making all the decisions and all of this other stuff. Doesn't work that way. You need to share responsibility. You need to share leadership. Because the biggest part of leadership is training. Most people don't step into leadership roles automatically. They have to be trained to do that, because either they're too forceful or they're too lax. And there is a middle of the road there where you do the job really well and people respect you. They don't have to like you, but they should respect you because they trust you. They trust that you're going to do the right thing, not only for them, but for the whole unit. Because
I actually have a senior that I've been chatting with, and he gave me some of the really best advice. He actually, just as basic as it sounds, and it's as easy. You will always do good if you act like you're always on camera with good intentions. And that kind of like reminded me, it's like, you're right. We're in a modern age. Yeah, it's 100% right. But what I'm getting at is, I recently sat down with him not too long ago, and he shared with me his most recent, they call it DOC surveys. And people don't believe they work, and they don't believe that they're anonymous, but they actually work. It goes straight to the top. But out of all the staff, he had the most compliments. He looked at me, he was like, "You know how I got that?" And I was like, "How'd you get that?" And he's like, "By caring for the people." I want to share this with you because it actually meant a lot to me. This is what he said to me, and he's a really great guy. He continues to give me advice. I said, I made rank, and I wanted to thank you for the mentorship and advice you given me. I wouldn't have made it better of myself without some of the great advice you're giving me. And then he says, "I'm very happy to hear that, and I love chatting. You're the future Manny," in which, that kind of just like, oh yeah, that's true. You impact other people's life. And now do me a favor and find another person or two to carry with you. As airmen, we should always be building our team stronger.
Right.
And that's what he said. That's you know how powerful that is? Like, I was trying to find a way how to help out, and he literally said to me, he was like, go to your supervisor and just say, "What can I do for you? How can I alleviate?"
Simple. Real simple. Folks forget the simple. They try to do the complex, and it's just no. Go back to what matters. It's like when we were doing math, and it was just no. Take a step back. How are we going to start this problem? But it same thing in life is that folks look for elaborate, wonderful,
Comfort.
complex solutions. No, no, no. Keep it simple. It's just, yeah, okay. And because you look at, well, it's like that FedEx driver. He pulled in, I'm handing him a cold bottle of water. And he said, man, I was hoping you'd have one. I was going to ask you for two. And I go, well, wait. I ran back in the house. I got him two more and I came out. So I gave him three. And he goes, this is a lifesaver. And I'm going, great. And it's one of those, okay, because what's 3 bottles of water cost me? But if it keeps him from getting dehydrated or swerving off the road because he, loses his focus or whatever, okay, I'm really good with that because he's a good guy. He takes good care of me, and it's one of those, I want to take good care of him, and yeah.
Is that not thinking with an advantage thought? Or some people have the
Well,
whole, I did this for you.
yeah, and it's not thinking about, I'm going to do this so that I can get this back. I'm not looking for anything in return because I've already gotten it. The other part of it was I learned when I was doing consulting. This is back prior to teaching for me, that you don't need to always charge somebody for your time. You just go in and you do a job, and
Yeah.
and the customer might say, well, I need to pay you, and okay, I'll take your money, but it's one of those, I'm going in to do a job for them, to help them, and it's not about me being rewarded, it's about me taking care of them. And when that finally clicked with me, it was just a matter of, holy cow, I had more people asking me to help them than I'd ever had before because they knew I would. Number one. And number two was they knew that I wasn't looking for some outlandish payment. And that's one of the things that I liked about your text, about you didn't feel, you felt really neutral about the promotion, because the promotion is just a tool for you. It's like when you get those gold bars pinned on, okay, you take on a lot of additional responsibility and you have a lot of additional power. And sometimes I've seen officers that the power goes to their head and they become these really ugly people, say things, do things that, geez, why did you do that? Kind of thing. But it's a matter of, you also have the opportunity to do so much good. If I were to go back and talk to Second Lieutenant Al Lake, I would say to him, okay, take care of your people, and they'll take care of you.
Did he know that then? Did he know that?
Not real well. But I did do a good job of taking care of my people, but it wasn't as good as, I could do a better job now, but heck, I'm 50 years older. I mean, I would.
You look 50 right
I was,
now.
I was 21 when I became a second lieutenant. Had a lot to learn at that point, and I still have a lot to learn. But it's a matter of, you're looking to learn something today, and that's one of your character traits is you're always looking to learn, and that's phenomenally wonderful.
It's interesting because I'm a very giving person and I like to always ask questions, and I find it easier to learn from other people's mistakes before doing them yourself.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because there's a very fine line between, I know now how to tell if somebody's taking advantage of me. I know how to tell when to just walk out and just to say, no, I'm good. I learned I let an individual questioned me, even though I gave them the answer, and I just don't think it was the answer they wanted, or they already made up their mind and made a decision, you know.
Yeah.
And I could tell that right away in that conversation. I was like, they already made up their mind what they're going to do. It doesn't matter what I even say. It could elevate it, but it's just interesting because I learned a lot of that from you, actually. And it's strange because I met you as a math teacher. I remember skipping school all the time. You and Mrs. Dow. I remember that you both were like, you didn't care so much if we were to do the homework. You cared about us being there. And you were always concerned about everything was good. And back in 2006, you know, it was before they really were cracking down on people skipping school. So you could skip weeks of school and really just not even matter. And I remember running into you at that Toyota dealership, and I was like, is that Al? And then, boom, right away, it's just like, there goes that gap we had, and just, boom, went right back into it. And I want to ask you, you brought up 3 core values a second ago, and you listed the first 2. What was the third one?
Third one is take responsibility for your actions. And that's a multi-pronged thing, in that you have to be aware of what you are responsible for, and you have to be willing to take on that task or tasks, and you have to be able to be responsible in it. When I was a second lieutenant, the unit I was in had probably some of the worst morale that I've ever seen. Officers and NCOs and enlisted. It was the end of Vietnam. December 74. It was right before the fall of Saigon, and on and on. And vast majority of the folks I'm talking to, NCOs and officers, they're veterans of Vietnam. I mean, they had personal experience there. And nobody likes to lose. And the amount of drug use and alcohol misuse and on that was going on was just amazingly awful. At the same time, many of the actions by specifically the officers, but also some of the NCOs, was really poor. They were really good examples of what not to do when you're in a position of power. And I came to the conclusion, the Peter principle is that you get promoted beyond your capability to do meaningful work. It's kind of like DEI hires. You know, you take someone that has not earned, doesn't have the merit, and you put them into a position, you give them all this power, and they don't know what the heck they're doing. And many of the people, officers that I worked around, were like that. They had no business being where they were. And it's just, and they illustrated it on a day-by-day basis. They would just mess things up, and then they would point fingers at somebody else. They didn't take responsibility for their actions. You know, and sometimes it would come back and bite them, but most of the time it wouldn't. They were able to fly under the radar or whatever. And it was just really a poor time to be in the Army. You know, it was a lousy time to be in the Army, because you're walking around and nobody, you know, we used to, when I remember as a cadet, we would talk about esprit de corps. And I'm a member of this unit, and it was just, all people could talk about, NCOs and officers, was how long they had before their next PCS move, permanent change of station.
Yeah.
They wanted to get the heck out of there. And it was just, yeah, okay. You know, and you know, the mistake I made was that at the end of 5 years, my 5-year commitment, I got out off active duty, and I shouldn't have done that. That's, you know, that's ancient history. But it's a matter of, you know, yeah, okay. So for me personally, it was just a matter of, okay, take a step back. I don't have to own the actions of somebody else that's superior to me. my company commander, my battalion commander, the S3 operations officer, or whatever. Doesn't matter. They can say and do whatever they want to. As long as they don't give me an illegal order, I'm good, because I can't impact them. I can't tell them to do anything. They can just laugh at me if I did that. But I don't have to allow them to model their behavior and instill it in me. I can choose how I'm going to behave, how I'm going to think, because I am going to think before I take action. And that was a difficult lesson for me. I bumped into that more than half a dozen times before I realized, okay, because I was allowing people to really get into my head and just irritate the heck out of me. And I hated them. And that's never a good situation either. It's just, no. They can serve as a really poor example. Okay, now that puts them in a category of, okay, I'm not going to do what they're doing anytime.
Yeah.
But also, I don't have to own what they're doing because they're not me. And it used to really bother me when I would see officers in particular lie, because that's a violation of their oath.
You actually told me that one time. I remember that.
Yeah. That was a hard conversation. For me, it was just, okay, take a deep breath, because there's some things that need to be said here. But it was just, okay. And the part of that whole thing was that we had a good enough relationship that you listened to what I said, you thought about what I said, and you didn't let me push you off, alienate you. And I'm really happy about that, because I love you. And it, there are people that I come in contact with. It's like me walking through the grocery store talking to people.
80% talking, 20% shopping.
Yeah, and it's just, that's a privilege.
Yeah.
Because like I said, back 50 plus years ago, I took a real negative view on life. I was a real naysayer, it's always raining kind of person. And I'm not that person anymore. I'm having a lot of fun doing what I'm doing. And we were out working this morning. We got out there about 6:30, and around noon, it's over 90 degrees and it's 77% humidity, and it's just, I'm cooked, kind of thing. But, but we're getting a lot of good stuff done. But okay, as long as it doesn't kill us, then okay, I'm successful now. But it's a matter of, I'm really enjoying life, and that was didn't always approach life that way. There were days when I would get up and I would go to work, and it was just, I really don't want to be here, kind of thing. And it's just, boy, that's sad, because there's got to be a reason other than just a paycheck for me to be here, and much of that. One of the lessons I learned early on, specifically at Ranger School, was that when I went, we would go out, we would get up at 2:30 in the morning, and we'd go for 10-mile run in formation, which is at least twice as taxing as running. and I learned that when I shifted from being in the formation to leading the formation, that I did much better. It was a psychological thing, because I'm out there, I'm doing the cadence calls, which I'm really good at. But I'm looking at everybody in the formation, and I realize they're worse off than I am. Now, that may or may not be true. But the other part of it is, I don't have to worry about the guy in front of me or the guy behind me or the guy on either side of me bumping into me and knocking me down and getting run over, all that other stuff that happens when you're running in formation. I'm out here, and I'm looking at these folks, and I'm thinking, okay, I can help here. And I did. One of the guys in my platoon, when we got finished running one morning, came over to me and he said, I really enjoy the runs because of you, because you make it fun. And that was quite a statement, because, you go out and run 10 miles and then you come back for breakfast.
Yeah.
It's one of those, okay, that's a tough morning. It's just, but okay.
So
Yeah.
what's the lesson there? What was the lesson in that one?
That even in the worst of situations, that you can make it better. Essentially, you can survive a really bad situation so that you can live in the good times.
Parenting. Sounds like a lot like parenting.
Yeah, 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 very much so. Yeah, because I I was we were flying back from Boise, Idaho, and I walked by a dad, and he was taking care of the child, and I said, "You're doing good, Dad." And his response was, you know, "Not every day is perfect." And I just stopped and I said, "Of course not. You know, we're human. We make mistakes. But are you doing the best you can do?" And he goes, "Well,
Oh,
yeah."
that's
Then you're doing good, Dad. And it's one of those, okay, because I don't want to rain on his parade, because he is doing good. Yeah, everybody has bad days. I mean, that 3-year-old that he was manhandling, trying to get to into the restroom so he didn't wet his pants. Um, he was having a bad day. Okay, and it's at that age, it's on the parents to take care of the child. But it is a matter that I can impact people around me, and it's one of those, okay, and it's not a big impact because I'm doing one person at a time. Okay, I'll take that, because that for me is a win. It's just and it's that's what I live for now.
mentors I have. I call him Taco Man, Taco Truck guy, but he actually called me out on something because I was really curious. Is like, am I a manipulator, or have I ever been a manipulator who would change a scenario for their advantage?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize sometimes I actually, anytime you try to twist or gain, it's no good. It
Yeah.
doesn't do good for you. It doesn't build
No.
you. It doesn't make you. And I didn't realize there was times that I was doing that. And thankfully, he told me the honest answer, and he actually told me exactly and corrected me, and I'm thankful for that. But um, you don't gain anything from trying to manipulate or control a situation. You just
You understand your intentions. I remember, God, this is 15 years ago. Woman said something that was outlandish, and then took a step back and said, "That wasn't me." It's just, of course it was you. I saw your lips moving, kind of thing. It
yeah.
didn't want to take responsibility for her actions, but it's a matter of, okay, you got to do better than that. It just, because people that are working with you will get to understand you, and there's a real trust factor in there. I mean, you think about the senior NCOs around you and the officers around you, and the ones you can trust and the ones that you are unsure about. The ones that you're going to second guess what they're saying because they just haven't been truthful. And it's a matter of, okay. And as an officer, you never want to say anything that's even close to borderline, because as a teacher, the appearance of something being inappropriate is in itself being inappropriate.
Yeah.
It may look inappropriate. Oh, it's inappropriate then, because appearances have substance.
They
And
do.
so they do.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of, you want to move. Anytime you do something, you want to move with assurance, and you want to move with steadfastness, and you want to move doing the right thing every time. Yeah. And it just.
That's so awesome. That's um, dang, so many good lessons. It's funny because you remember how Matt and Tom, remember,
Who?
Tom, Matt, the Montgomerys?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually seen, oh gosh, it was after we left Oregon. We were back
Yeah.
there, and I got to see Matt, and it was just, oh God,
He's
love that
doing
guy.
really good. They're both
He
doing
is.
really good. I
Yeah.
actually am
Yeah.
very surprised. Uh, I got Thomas a job at T-Mobile, and I never thought Thomas would do so well at it. He's such a natural on the phone.
That's
But
surprising.
yeah,
That really
you know what I'm
is.
talking about, right? Like
I
everybody
do
knows
know what you're talking
he
about. Yeah.
is book smart, not street smart.
Yeah.
But then Matt, he's married to Jamie. He's loving life.
Oh,
He has a beautiful daughter. He has a couple kids, and
yeah.
yeah, they're both doing. A lot of people that
Well,
you personally have had in your class or you've affected. It's actually kind of ironic. You know what I'm trying to say? The little touch of
it's
magic.
it's wonderful to be able to see, because I remember a student at Sprague, I don't even remember which one it was, but came up to me one day and said, what should I do with my life? And my response was, be good. And that's, be good at what you're doing, literally make the right moral decisions, and always strive to do better than you've done today. And it was, and they looked at me like I'd grown a second head, kind of thing. But it was one of those, that's real, because I'm not going to tell a high school student, well, you need to go off and become an astrophysicist, or pick a job. That's not my job. It's just, no. And I always wanted my students to do really well at life in general. It's like Matt, Mary, and Jamie. She had a couple of kids that came,
Yeah, she's
that were
pretty awesome. She put him in line, like Cindy did with me.
Yeah, and it's just okay, and Matt just, okay, these are my kids now, and it's okay. I applaud that move, because another one of my sayings is, a child can't have too many people love them, and it's okay.
That's actually true.
I'm really on board with that. It's just, yeah.
So go ahead.
No, I'm always happy to see that former students of mine are doing well. That is just a blessing to me. It's just, yeah, I'm happy about it. Doesn't matter what they're doing, as long as they're doing good.
Isn't that the moral of life? It doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as you're enjoying it and actually being caring for others.
Yeah, because my goal when I was a high school student was I wanted to make $1 million. Back when $1 million was real money, and I got into software development, and this is back before software development was a big gig, and then it started paying just huge amounts of money, and on, but it's just okay. Yeah, that's not a real good purpose in life. Because money is just a tool, like a hammer, and like a car, or a truck. It's just a tool. It's what you do with the money, or the car, or the truck, or the hammer, that is meaningful.
Yeah.
You take and shove $1 million into a bank account. Okay, good for you. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't.
I remember me specifically talking to you about, so with my kids and Cindy and I don't know if you remember, but I told you about how somebody in our family made the comment saying, why are you doing all this stuff with your kids? Right now you should be making money, you should be putting money in the bank, you should be saving, you should be like da 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 da. And I just ignored it. We're
Yeah.
going to Disney World in 2 months
Yeah.
now. We're going to be seeing you in
Yeah.
2 months. And that's not a cheap trip. That's not at all.
No,
Yeah, you want to go
no.
cheap, but the memories you get to build, and
Yeah.
the kids see it.
I think back now on things that happened in my classroom, and I think, okay, I'm happy with that. I'm real happy with that. You know, that I could have done a little bit better at, but I'm okay with that. You know, kind of thing. I don't think that I ever blasted a kid for no reason at all.
I was there when Calvin got you mad. I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but he pushed your button pretty hard that day in the class.
he did. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And part of what irritated me with Calvin the most was that I wasn't having any impact on him, and that was obvious to me because there was no behavior modification. He wasn't even listening. He was just going off doing whatever he wanted to do, and it was just I didn't understand that at all. But I guess the bottom line on it is he doesn't trust me enough to listen to me, and it's just that's his choice. And so it's just okay. That is what it is. And yeah.
Can I ask you? So you got out Lieutenant Colonel. You were a Ranger. You went into the reserves, and then you went cyber, right? No, you worked at the Pentagon. What
14 years at the Pentagon as individual mobilization augmentee. I was an Army reservist without a reserve unit. I literally had hip pocket orders at the Pentagon for 14 years, and that was my reserve duty. So I got 2 weeks of duty a year. That was it. From a dollar and cents standpoint, that was a poor decision, but okay, it is what it is. But also I really missed being around people. Being a member of a unit, because
Isn't
there's
it amazing?
It is.
You won't find anything else like that in the community.
No, because there's a connection that you have there that you don't get. You don't get that in a normal civilian job. Don't trust me on that. You don't. And I always felt that I was missing something until I did my first Patriot Guard ride. We had there was a guy that was in Hawaii. He was a Marine stationed in Hawaii, and they were doing training exercise. He was on a helicopter that went down in the ocean, and he died. And I remember I got on my motorcycle. I rode up to PDX. That's where we were assembling. And I pulled into the staging area there. I hadn't even put my kickstand down, and there are 6 guys walking toward me. They literally come up and they hug me. They don't know me. And it was just, okay, I feel like I'm home now for the first time in a whole bunch of years. And that's one of the reasons why wherever I've been in the past 20 years, I've been a member of the Patriot Guard Riders. Because I really enjoy the relationship I have with the other riders.
That's
and we
have everybody in the service, huh?
Yeah, and we have a mission that is worthy of our time. I mean, we're not getting paid to do this. We're spending money to do this. Doesn't matter, because our mission is worth doing. We're out there taking care of a veteran's family. There were at least half a dozen times in Oregon that the veteran had no family, and the Patriot Guard Riders were his family. And it was just a matter of, okay, I'm here for it, but for me, the camaraderie just works for me. I really enjoy it. The guys that I associate with here in Kentucky think it's really funny, because I would come out and one of them was laughing at me because they're all NCOs. I'm the only officer in the group.
Yeah.
And I say much less than anybody else. I just sit and listen.
You?
And yeah, and I'm not trying to lead anybody. You know, one of the guys said, you know, when are you going to become a ride captain? I said, I'm not. And part of that reaction is that I've been in positions of authority where I've had responsibility for people and getting here, there, and everywhere. And it's just, I don't want to do that again. I'm happy sitting back, letting somebody else lead this parade. I really am. I just don't want to do that. It's just, you know, I just enjoy just being around these guys, and it is fabulous. It's a good day any day I get to go out with them.
Yeah. Every day is a good day, I feel like. Every day can
Yeah.
be a good day.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so.
You know, and you know, occasionally, oh, it's like I was in Elizabethtown a couple months ago at a gathering of the Guard. We had 350 riders come into Elizabethtown for a meeting, and we spent the weekend together. And we went out for a ride on Saturday, and the ride ended up being about 4 hours long. We rode almost 300 miles, and the last 45 minutes of the ride, it's raining on us. I mean, just opened up and poured on us. It's still a good day, you know, but it's just okay. Well, we'll take this and we'll move on. If you so many examples of life caused me to reflect back on when I was in a foxhole. This is going to sound kind of strange, but there are days when you should keep your head down in the foxhole, because if you stick your head up, somebody's going to shoot at you. And that's an infantry mentality, but that's what I was originally, was, you know, a rifleman, infantry. And it's a matter of, there are days at work that you just keep your head down and keep moving forward, you know, and you know, don't become visible, because some managers, if you become visible, they will smack you down and they'll hurt your career. And no, you don't want to allow that to happen.
Yeah, it doesn't take much for somebody to tarnish something.
No. Well, and particularly for officers, when you become an officer, there's this feeling of zero defect, in that when you're getting your officer efficiency reports and your awards and everything else, you cannot make a single mistake in your entire career. And that's,
wow.
That's
heavy. That's heavy.
It is. And those are the folks that are going to make colonel or general officer. And it's obviously, I wasn't that good. And it's just, okay. The other part of it that I figured out was that the rank is just a tool that allows me to influence people. The thing that amused me the most about those 14 times actually it ended up being more than 14, but 14 years of going back to the Pentagon, was that I would walk in and I would be the junior person in the room. And I had, because I was doing computer consulting and I had a master's degree in computer science, I had more real world experience and knowledge than everybody else in the room. And I knew that. I actually identified that. Kept my mouth shut until somebody asked me a question, then I would give them a short answer, but it would be very direct. And it, you know, that influenced every single tour I did back there. There was at least one instance where I changed the course of Army policy. I was working for the Secretary of the Army. and it's one of those, okay, I can, but it's the other part of it is you don't let it go to your head. It's just a job. It has, okay.
We all take a uniform off at the end of the day.
Yep.
Nurses, doctors.
Yep. And when we get up, we put our pants on the same way and on and on. Yeah,
Larry
that's
King
true.
said that. Larry King said that. Everybody ties
That's
their
right.
shoelace in the morning.
Yep. Yep. And if you don't tie your shoelaces properly, you're going to fall on your face. That's an Al saying. But it's just a matter of, okay. The folks that bothered me were the folks that lied, the folks that let the rank go to their head, and the folks that would just do and say ugly things, just do this power play, where they throw their weight around and it's just okay. And you just keep your head down and keep moving forward.
You be a better person.
Yeah.
I started the kids book. I am going to go ahead and prop that up. So,
Oh, fun.
yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
It won't even let me. Yeah, the screen's all kind of messed up. But I'm starting a kids book with you, and so I'm going to go ahead and kind of put it together. I feel like there's a lot of stories that should always be told, and the best way to transcribe things for our future generations is telling them and find a way how to put it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even move that. Yeah, there we go. Oh, it's all messed up. Yeah, I love
That's
technology. Let's see here. All right, there we go. Oh, I guess that kind of works. Yeah, cool. Man, I love chatting with you, Al. I know you've been busy lately. You've been super busy.
Yeah. Yep. Just keeping my head down, trying to get stuff done.
Yeah. We're going to be in Disney in a couple months, though.
I'm looking forward to it. This will be a lot of fun. I love Disney World. Actually, I love Disneyland too, but what's not to love? Yeah.
I find it interesting because I've networked with quite a few people over there, and I don't really want to work there. I just love the magic that they help create.
Yeah.
And it's not about the money. It's about the memories you're involved with making. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It does make sense. Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at, I was making better than 150,000 a year, and started teaching high school math, and I was making right around $40,000 a year. And folks that look at that and they go, well, that's a poor decision. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made, because I had purpose every single day for going into Sprague High School every day.
You touched a lot of people's hearts.
There were, I always knew when I encountered a student that really needed me there, and it wasn't about the math. No, they needed something else, and that's why I was there. Okay, I'm good with that. Yeah.
You are good with that.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see you guys soon. I know
this will be fun. This will be really fun. Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and let you go. I know
Okay.
Cindy has an appointment. I took 2 hours of your time, almost an hour and a half.
Shoot. Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah.
Good talking with you, Manny. It is. I love you.
I love you too, Al. I'll talk to you later, Al.
Okay. Bye-bye.